But let's get into the heart of today's conversation. We're going to be talking about organic discoverability. My friend Adam over at Podcasting Business School is going to kick off this conversation. He's got about 15 to 20 minutes of a planned presentation, and then we're going to open things up to discussion. So if you have questions, drop them into chat, and I will relay those questions to Adam during the presentation, or Adam's a sharp enough speaker too that he might catch them in chat and be able to address them on the fly. But I also want to hear from you guys too. Our guest speaker has tons of knowledge, but there is a ton of knowledge sitting in this attendee list right now as well. So don't be bashful to jump in after the presentation and add some more commentary, some things that have worked for you in terms of organic discoverability or growth in general. I really want to make this a discussion after the fact. So with that in mind, Adam, I am going to hand things over to you, and the floor is all yours.
All right, Justin, my pod pal, Justin, thanks for inviting me in. I'm really excited to be here. And I just called an audible on myself. I had like slides and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? We're going face to camera discussion today because I want to see you all and I want to do some live interaction. So you can raise your real life human hand or your little yellow Zoom hand icon thing. If you guys want to dive in, we can get some back and forth going. Just a real quick background on me. My name is Adam Schaeuble. I'm the host of Podcasting Business School. I've been a podcaster since 2015. I started off in the health space. I eventually figured things out after about 3 years of how to monetize that show. I owned a fitness facility and I sold that at the end of 2019, pre-pandemic. Very lucky timing there. And I went full-time as a podcaster in 2019. I've had my brand Podcasting Business School since 2018. And my podcasting career so far, I just crossed 1 million downloads a few months ago, over 1,000 episodes recorded across my entire podcasting career. But Podcasting Business School is where it's at right now, where I focus on helping coaches, consultants, service providers learn how to leverage their show to get more clients and build their online business. So if you're a service provider, this will be especially helpful for you today. But honestly, if you're just a podcaster, whether it's a hobby, whether it's a business, the topic of organic discoverability is really, really important. All right. Really important. So what I mean by organic discoverability is what a lot of people call SEO. I stopped using that term earlier this year because I felt like it was confusing podcasters, because SEO for Google and blogs and websites, that's a separate thing. What I'm talking about today is what happens when you pull up your podcast player app of choice and you hit that search bar. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you go to that search bar. What I'm talking about today is optimizing for that, so that when your ideal listener searches a thing that you should be showing up for, how do we make sure that you show up for it? Example, you can go to any podcast player app that you want, type in podcasting tips. Guess whose show pops up number one? This guy. All right. And that's a huge part of my growth strategy. And I'm going to tell you today exactly how that happens. And when people pay me for this, Justin just like strong armed me in. He's like, you owe me, man. You got to come in here. So I'm like, I'm going to drop knowledge. You're going to get a lot of actionable advice here today. And let me inspire you with one simple story. When I speak on stage, I love to pull people up. I'm big on live coaching. On my show, every Friday, I do a podcast audit. I pull an audience member up onto the show and I coach them for free for 30 minutes. I've done it for 2 years in a row. So I love grabbing people doing live coaching. We'd love to do a little bit of that today. I already got some ideas for some of you out there with your show names that we're going to redo, and I'm going to help you double your downloads in the next month before the end of the year. So I pulled a woman up on the stage. I go, "What's the name of your show?" And it was something that didn't follow all the rules that I'm gonna dish out here today. And we rebranded her show on stage. She went from doing 47 downloads an episode to over 108,000 downloads that next year with just what I told her on stage. Didn't pay me a dime. All right. She emailed me back the next year. It's like, "Hey, this is what I've done." That was the one promise. I said, "Let me know in a year what you do." So the growth buckets that I kind of group podcast growth into, we've got effort-based marketing. That's all the stuff that we all do that honestly kind of burns us out. That's the Instagram reels. That's the stories. That's the email marketing. That's the guesting on other people's podcasts, OPP, other people's podcasts. We got to be down with OPP in the podcasting space, but it's effort-based. All right. Then we've got the paid marketing bucket. Those are our Facebook and Instagram ads, our podcast player app ads. We're spending money to acquire listenership. But the third bucket is organic discoverability. And honestly, for me, for my brand and my show, that's 50% or more of where not only my new listeners come from, but it's almost 100% of where my best clients are coming from. Those people that hop on my discovery calls going, let's do business because I'm obsessed with your show. And organic discoverability is nice because that works for us for free while we sleep. So when I slept last night, somebody searched podcasting tips somewhere in the world and they started binge listening to my show. All right, that's how this is supposed to work. So many podcasters burn out and quit because all the effort-based marketing stuff, like it takes me an hour to make an Instagram reel where I'm dancing around and then it gets 4 likes. And then my neighbor, does an Instagram reel with their dog taking a dump in the backyard and it gets 4 million likes. And it's depressing, right? So how do we get around that and really leverage organic discoverability? The number one reason why your ideal listeners are not finding your show is the name of your show. It's the most powerful organic discoverability. If you want to call it SEO, we can call it that, but it's the most powerful organic discoverability tool that you have as podcasters. All right. The name of your podcast. Here's the issue that podcasters run into. I myself have stumbled upon this issue several times as I've created shows in the past. We are creative people and we get too cute and creative with the names of our shows, and they're not strategic. All right. Example, my show, Podcasting Business School, it's optimized. It works for organic discoverability. The original name of the show was Casting the Pod, a podcast about podcasting called Casting the Pod. I thought it was cute. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Casting the Pod. It's a play on words. Nobody got the joke and nobody listened. And here's the really embarrassing thing. I did 100 episodes of this brand as Casting the Pod with nobody listening. Nobody was listening. When I rebranded and relaunched as Podcasting Business School, now I've done over 1 million downloads total with my health show and this show, but we're approaching 600,000 downloads on Podcasting Business School, almost 100% since I switched the name to Podcasting Business School. So same content. Now people are actually listening. So the next smart question that you all are going to have is like, okay, well, how do we get the perfect podcast name working for us? I've got 3 simple rules. And honestly, what I'd love to do is talk about these rules and let's talk about application for you. How do we make these work for you? All right. The number 1 rule, when I read the name of your show, and I love that all of you went around and, here's the name of my show. I've already got ideas going. So the number 1 rule, when I hear the name of your show, when I read it, when I search and it pops up, I want to know exactly what the show's about. So Casting the Pod, people thought it was about fishing. I got people looking for a fishing podcast for Casting the Pod, not podcasting business tips, not online business coaching for podcasters, not at all. So I could have a lot of people like the Humble Hustle podcast, the Awesome Life podcast, a lot of, if you search the word hustle, all types of dumb shows are going to pop up on your pod, or awesome or biz, just all these like trendy words, but they don't mean anything because nobody's searching them. So rule number 1, when I read the name of your show, I want to know exactly what it's about. Rule number 2, when I read the name of your show, I don't know exactly who it's for. Big mistake on this one. Like there's no identifying terms. So the woman I brought up on the stage, she had some obscurely named show, but her ideal audience was Christian women. So we called that out in the new name of our show. We rebranded to Mental Health for Christian Women. Explosion. I know exactly what it's about. I know exactly who it's for. Those follow the first 2 rules. All right. The third rule, I want at least 2 searchable keywords. All right. So we look at mental health for Christian women. Mental health is one of the top searchable terms. All right. Christian. If you have a topic that is of a religious base like that, the name of the religion needs to be in the name of the show. 100%. If not, you are missing out in a big time way. Some people, I've got clients that have shows about ADHD or cancer. Those need to be in the name of the show because that's what people are searching for. Those are the keywords that people are searching. And here's the real kicker. So I know where all you guys just went into ChatGPT. What's the best keywords? AI sucks at podcast keywords, 100%. You know what the best AI is for, the joke is coming. I already started laughing. I can't help it. The best AI available for podcast keywords, Adam Intelligence. It's right up here in my brain region. All right. I'm great at this because this is what I do day in and day out. People pay me for podcast rebranding handsomely. All right. This feeds my giant 13-year-old son. Tom Singer, my son Henry, is 13 years old. He's 215 pounds, 6 foot tall. He's a football player. Like, that's how I feed
He's a
him.
moose. He is a moose.
He's huge.
And was a moose at 8 years old.
He's huge. He's huge. So that's how I feed Big Henry, is a lot of rebranding stuff. But you guys, we're going to turn on the into coaching mode here in a second, and I want to look at your names. I'm going to show you what you should be doing. All right. So rule number 1, want to know exactly what it's about. Rule number 2, exactly who it's for. Rule number 3, at least 2 searchable keywords: podcasting and business. Those are my searchable keywords. All right. Now, let me give you the atomic bomb of organic discoverability that several of you can fix right away, and it's going to help immediately. Take the word "the" off the front of your name. Nobody searches "the." All right. The first word in the name of your show has the most organic discoverability power. So I could have called my show The Podcasting Business School, and I still could call it that verbally. On my art, I could call it that everywhere. But in my podcast host, just take the word "the" off. Now the first word is podcasting. Huge search term. So the online marketing club for solopreneurs. Take "the" off. Everywhere else is fine, but as it's listed, take the off. I was talking on on Threads a couple of days ago. I'm like, I'm gonna create a shirt that's like, it says ditch the from the name of your show, and you guys all be in on that inside joke. So first word keyword. My favorite template for a podcast name would be big keyword, tips, strategies, whatever, for keyword, and keyword. So I've got a limited series podcast called Podcast Monetization Tips. That's the big keyword for online coaches, consultants, and service providers. Big name. Ooh, that's scary. I thought our names were just supposed to be three words, Adam. What happened to that? All these people say 3 words or less. I mean, I've got a giant title extension on Podcasting Business School, and I change it about every quarter just to get keywords in there. I've got clients out there with giant podcast names, and they do giant downloads. So that is something to, something to consider. So big keyword, tips, strategies, conversations for keyword, and keyword. Some of those keywords are identifying terms. So if you are targeting women, solopreneurs, age groups, religions, diagnosable diseases and things like that, like those need to be in there. What is your ideal listener searching for? And if you have a social media following, an email list, these are great questions to ask your people. If somebody DMs you on Instagram, "Hey, I love your show." They have a question, answer the question. They go, "What were you looking for when you found my show? What did you type in there?" That's how I figured out podcasting tips. Now, guess what I use, in my episode titles, in my podcast host description? Podcasting tips is everywhere. Almost every single episode is like podcasting tips for building your lead magnets, tips for podcasters on podcast growth, tips for podcasters on how to monetize a podcast. And then people are like, "Well, you use that term a lot. Doesn't that like scare away your listeners?" I'm like, heck to the no. Like, people are coming for the pod. They want the tips. That's what they're here for. That's what they're showing up for. So we
Adam,
figure out those searchable keywords. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you rewind that real quick? Somebody just asked me what you said. So when someone finds you or connects with you on Instagram, you ask what?
So, I mean, it could be an email reach out. It could be a DM on social. Usually they're like, "Love your show, blah, blah, blah. Here's a question." I'll answer the question first. But before that conversation is exited, I will go, "Hey, I appreciate that you're a listener. What were you looking for on Apple or Spotify when you found my show? Like, do you remember what you searched or what type of a podcast you were looking for?" It's just gold. It is invaluable information. And if you do have an email list or like an Instagram following, you could put up a poll and go, if you were looking for a show like mine, what would you search? Or like an open text box or something like that. And just, these are our keywords that we want to kind of use, that we're going to kind of use for keyword for fishing when we're out there looking for new listeners, basically. So, so that's something that is super, super powerful. And let's see here. Yeah, I think those are the basics of podcast naming. But I'm telling you, I have so many clients that we just switched the name like this. I doubled my downloads in the first 30 days. Now, let's talk about the person that is like, you know, I my IG handle, like it's the brand person. Like I've got a book named this and my IG handle and my website, and I want it all to be the same. And I've got certain people that are just like stuck in that and they won't change it. I'm like, all right, whatever. You got the Awesome McAwesomeness show, but we're going to do a title extension where it's like the Awesome McAwesomeness show, colon, um, entrepreneurship tips for women over 40. Then it still follows all my rules. So we add a title extension to get the keywords, the what's it about, the who it's for. And I highly suggest adding that language to the art, because if somebody searches certain keywords and they see a name that doesn't make any sense, they're not going to click on that art. So we got to add that in there. I love a little shadow box border at the bottom. Let's add that extra text there just so they can see it. I'm big on that. So that is a title extension strategy. Let me give you an example of this. One of my clients is Lorianne Morabito. She's a public speaker. All right. She has a podcast called Be in Demand, public speaking tips for, it's like for entrepreneurs and some, a few other keywords there. And she got a boost in downloads. And I go, Lorianne, let's try an experiment. Just in the title line, she hosts in Libsyn. Let's flip them. Let's flip the title extension. So it's the first thing. So the first word will be public speaking, huge search term for her. Public speaking tips for blah, 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 Be in Demand podcast. So her brand, her website, her art, nothing changed. We just flipped them. She did a 200% personal best 7 days. I mean, she took her best 7 days ever and went 200% over that as soon as she flipped them and made public speaking the first word in the name of her show. So this is really powerful. Just imagine, we all work so hard on all the social media and like trying to get on other people's shows and all that effort-based stuff. What if dozens, hundreds, thousands of new listeners just started showing up week after week, each episode that you release because of this, because of the name of your show? And I have to tell you, like, this is reality for me. It's a really, really big deal. So Justin, I'm going to put my brakes, let you kind of guide me to the next step. I definitely want to do some coaching on some name and just do some idea jam session a little bit. But let me know where you want to take it next.
I think the practicality of a somewhat coaching session here could be helpful. I did drop in Lorianne's podcast if you want to see exactly how it's set up on the title line within inside of Apple. But I'd be curious if anybody was brave enough that probably knows they're due for a podcast rename, if anyone's brave enough to hop on with Adam here.
Or just explore ideas. Like I heard, I don't know if it was Corey, somebody had a health show that I was like, oh, that.
Corey already dropped a comment in and said, well, I'm overdue for a rename. Charlie also mentioned she would be down, or they would be down. So Charlie, I don't know if you want to take first stab, and then Corey, if you're brave enough to, or Claudia.
Yeah. And let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. And I'll just kind of jam out some ideas. But again, just like I did with the person on stage at PodFest that one year, I would love to get, text me back in a month, message me back in a month, or get with Justin, be like, oh, I did the thing and then this happened. Because I love sharing testimonials like that. And also, before I forget, I'm going to put an episode in the chat of my show. That's episode 449, where I kind of go into all this stuff. So it's a little bit of a deeper dive. If you guys want to use that as a resource, that's a great place to start. I got 527 episodes. So that's a good one to start with. All right, let's do this. Charlie, you're up first. I've got an idea from your intro, but give me the name of the show again, and let's talk a few ideas.
So I don't have so we're good. It's called Unicorn Millionaire Podcast, and I can read you my about line if you want to give me feedback on that, but we can just start with the name first.
Let's look at like your ideal listener description or avatar. Like, who's the ideal listener for this? How do they describe themselves? And let's start from there.
Like queer, LGBT, BIPOC, first gens who are the first to like make fuck tons of money, but they don't know what to do with it, and I help them invest it.
Okay, so keywords, any of those self-identity description words. Like I would try to pick one or two that we infuse into like the ones that are like, this is really, or all, whatever you feel like. If you like, you really want to hone out on one, that's great. Or all, like, those are going to be really important. Any identification terms, whether, I mean, anything, like it's really important because I want the ideal listener to go, that is me. That's a word that I use to describe myself. Even something simple like if you have a health show, but you really want to attract personal trainers, use the word personal trainer in there because it's not just about health. It's health business strategies for personal trainers. Mm-hmm. So being as specific as possible, using language they use to describe themselves. But it sounds like the word business or entrepreneurship, those are amazing search terms. If we can get one or both of those in there, plus your identifying terms, that's the recipe. That's the direction I'd love to steer you into. Now, I'll say something else. Sometimes we have to leverage a big search term as kind of like a Trojan horse. And I don't love that term, but it's the most effective way to describe what I'm trying to get at here. We have to go like, for example, my health show, I focus in the name, I had the word weight loss, but my show was a mental health show. But I couldn't lead with mental health because nobody's like buying I'm going to get healthier by fixing my mental health. Nobody like thinks that's what they need. So I had to Trojan horse it.
Mindset either.
Yeah.
Like all I do is mindset.
Yes. So sometimes we got to be sneaky with that. We can't lead with that. We go, what's the big attractive thing that everybody wants? For me, it was like weight loss. And then when they start listening to it, I'm talking mental health. I'm going on like, what's going on here? Yeah. So just keep that in mind. But I think investment strategies, finance tips, investment strategies tips, business, entrepreneurship, and then any descriptive term. That's the soup that we gotta make there. Those are the ingredients. So that's if you can lock in on any of those, I think it's going to really help you a lot. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Who's the next victim? Let's go.
Let's go, Corey. I know you're in the health space, Adam. So this one is right up your alley. Corey, you
Lots
mind?
of experience. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, you mind sharing your podcast name again?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
I don't know. Was my screen frozen? Is that just me? I don't know. Anyways, so it's called the Health Hustle. Adam, I think we met at some point at some conference here in Austin that you might have come to. Total side note, but
probably KetoCon. I was down at KetoCon several years, so.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, it's called the Health Hustle, which ironically isn't necessarily for people looking for health advice, which is obviously a huge blunder. It's actually a business-focused podcast show, which is obviously where I'm messing up. So I'm assuming the show should start with something more business-oriented than health-oriented, if I had to guess.
Yeah, because you're going to get people searching health tips, health strategies. Now, you can keep the Health Hustle branding if that's like super duper important for you, but you may be a really ideal candidate for one of those like flips where you do the subtitle first and list it as that. So like entrepreneurship strategies or small business strategies for health entrepreneurs, Health Hustle podcast. Like I would look at entrepreneurship, business or small business. Again, if you're in that space, those are really great words to lean into. Like I've obviously got business in the name of my show. But let's say you were really into online marketing. Like that's what health professionals pay you for is online marketing or social media marketing. Then it could be like social media marketing strategies for health professionals, Health Hustle podcast or something like that. So really lean into what they're looking for, the pain point that you're trying to solve. So is that helpful? Any ideas pop up from that there, Corey?
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind for me was like business lessons or like or entrepreneurship lessons, or I like the idea of small business as well. What's your thoughts on like using the word lessons?
Yeah, lessons, strategies, tips, all that works well. Those aren't searchable, but those, that's descriptive of what you're delivering. Let's look at this. When somebody hires you, what are some of the pain points that you're helping them solve? Are you helping them increase client load, marketing? Like what type of things are you helping out with there?
Marketing, 1,000%. Lead generation at the end of the day.
Okay. Okay. So marketing is a great search term. Great, and even more if it's like social media marketing or online marketing, even better. So I would probably lead with that. Online marketing and business tips for health professionals or something like that. And that's like organic discoverability bomb, man. We're 10x in downloads off of this type of stuff. And we're fishing in some big pools there of online marketing, business, entrepreneurship, sales. But just imagine somebody, the identifying term with health professionals is the key for you. Somebody searches online marketing, anybody can search that, and your image can pop up on anybody's phone, but they're actually a health professional. It will allow you to pull from a big pool, and your ideal listener is like, that's me. That show's for me. Screw all these other shows about online marketing. This is the one for health professionals. That's what I am. So it only pulls in your ideal listener, which is great. And so on your art, if you do this, I would really, one of my favorite strategies with art, and I've got a lot of opinions on podcast art, but that's another quarterly conversation here. But I love like highlighting that health professional word in a different color that they make it super readable. So I'd make it a different color than anything else on your art. And just as a quick note, because I see organic discoverability as a two-leg relay race. The keywords have to get them to the screen with all the podcast images on it. You have to make sure that your art attracts that person where you win what I call the finger hover. So the finger is hovering on the phone. They're going to click on one, and if they like it, they're going to download and listen to it, and they're not coming back going, what was that other one I didn't like? They don't go back and go, that thing I was searching 3 weeks ago and I didn't pick those other things. I'm not going to go back and look at those. So biggest tip with podcast art, make sure the words are the star of the show. Biggest error I see people making, giant face picture with a little tiny text around it. If nobody knows your big giant face, Tom can attest to this. I have a giant face. It fills up the entire 1,400 by 1,400 square. I don't have room for this. So I need all the words on there because it's on a tiny little phone screen. I still have an iPhone 8, so it's extra tiny. I got the button in the middle. It's embarrassing. My son's embarrassed of me. So that's something to consider with podcast art. Let the text be the star of the show. Find a corner for your face to go into, but that's going to serve you really, really well. So yeah, I think leaning into those search terms is really, really going to help you a bunch, Corey. So I hope that helps, man.
Cool. One last question. I don't want to hog this whole thing, but so what do you think about digital marketing for health professionals? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
cool.
please. The more specific, digital marketing, social media marketing, online, those are very highly searched terms and they're specific. Each time you add, like one of the biggest podcasts in the world, Online Marketing Made Easy, Amy Porterfield, #PodCrush. I've been asking her to go to podcast prom with me for like 7 years. Don't even get the reply back. I'm looking for Justin to make an intro. Like, come on. But like one of the biggest shows in the world, Online Marketing Made Easy. It could have just been called marketing, but the fact that's online marketing or giant social media, but the fact that you pair up digital marketing with health professionals, that's just an attractor beam for your ideal listener, more importantly, your ideal client. So that's where I would go.
Cool. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Well done. I get that 3% commission check and all those sales.
Ding. Hi, crew. We're going to start transitioning to open discussion Q&A. We got a couple of questions already queued up in chat right now. So feel free to continue to drop in those questions. But I do want to make an extension to anybody that is now kind of swirling around in their head like, oh, I want to noodle on my title a little bit. I will be organizing a small group in the next week or two to get together, throw out your title name, and do exactly what we're doing with Adam right now. Just brainstorm. How does that resonate with the rest of the group? Try to get to a place or help you move along the decision of rebranding or retitling your show. So if you're interested in joining that group, I don't have a set time or date yet, or it depends on who joins. Either DM me on chat right now or send me a email, and I'm happy to get you on the coordination list for that time. Adam, I got a couple of questions for you that came through here. Let me see if I can find the first one. Charlie asked, do reviews really matter? Every time someone says they love the pod, I ask them to review, which I love that strategy. But what are your general thoughts on reviews?
Yeah, I mean, it's a positive thing. Let's talk about what they affect and don't affect. Let's start with what they don't affect. They don't affect the algorithm for like growth or discoverability. So if you get 1 million reviews, Apple Podcast doesn't go, oh, let's put this in front of more people. That's a fact. Like I talked to the people over at Libsyn and I asked them this question directly, and I trust them. They celebrated their 20th anniversary this past week, I think. So like that's what it doesn't impact. But what it does impact is social proof. And we can do all sorts of things with your podcast reviews. Let me give you a couple quick ideas. One is screenshot a few of them and create an Instagram reel, or do a whole bunch of stories and link back to your podcast for each one. Or maybe just do that once a week on an Instagram story, screenshot it. It could be one from 2 years ago. It doesn't matter. And then link to your show at the bottom. Want to see what it's all about? Boom. Check out episode whatever here. So, sharing them on your website, sharing them in your newsletters, your email marketing. That's where reviews really come in. Or somebody new searches your terms. They search podcasting tips. They come to my show and they see that I've got a whole bunch of reviews and they read a few. That helps win that person over a little bit. If somebody has no reviews or one review and it's kind of not so good one, they may back out of that relationship pretty quick. So social proof, closing the deal with new listeners. Yeah. So I think it's just important to understand how much effort you put into that. And if you're like, this is going to help me grow my show, it probably won't, but directly with like algorithmic growth, but from a new listener acquisition, social proof, social media, super valuable. But I think once you get to 100 or more, I'd probably throttle back just a little bit if you're really pushing that, because that call to action on your show is valuable real estate. And if you have something to sell, I'd much rather you honestly promote a discovery call. That's kind of my go-to call to action in the intro and outro, to promote your discovery call instead of going, or leave a rating review, hit me up on IG, join my newsletter, join my MySpace, write me a letter, like all these different things. I like a simple single call to action. I talk about that a lot on my show, but just, if you've been doing ratings and reviews, I'd throttle back on that, especially if you're over 100, or if you're trying to build your email list or promote a lead magnet, do something else there and let those rating and reviews kind of sit. Now, if you do a rebrand relaunch, or every once in a while, if you're doing a cool giveaway, I will tell people to write a review, screenshot it and tag me on Instagram, and I'll share that out and they're entered to win. Like you can do stuff like that. And that kind of circles the wagons and stirs up some podcast audience engagement.
I like that. I'd be curious if anybody else does any kind of giveaway or review whenever you request people to review the show, screenshot it, add it. If you guys can drop into chat. Jesse, I know you do a pretty good job of that too. You give away your super soft t-shirt, which I absolutely love. And I think it generates a lot of one-on-one conversations with listeners that typically wouldn't reach out. So I kind of like it for that reason too. You identify who a few listeners are, and that starts that conversation. And yeah, I like your super soft t-shirt giveaway.
Oh, that sounds luxurious.
For what it's worth,
I could imagine how soft it is just on my man chest right now. Like that's
after saying the word super soft t-shirt to listeners for the last year and a half, listeners are now reaching out and saying, could you please send me a super soft t-shirt? Like they're parroting the words back to me. And for what it's worth, I stole the idea from Choose FI when Brad had who's the founder of ConvertKit again? Nathan Barry. It was one of their ideas about like generating these flywheels in your podcast they talked about, where asking for reviews, and then I read a review at the beginning of my episode, which reminds listeners that they can leave a review. And I tell the listeners, hey, here's Justin's review. Justin, reach out to me by email. Here's my email address again. I'll send you a super soft t-shirt. And then it reminds the listeners like, oh, I could leave a review. I could get a super soft t-shirt. That's right. Jesse has an email address. He's got a blog. It's this flywheel effect. So anyway, that's the whole idea there.
I love it. And one other bonus tip, if you are the person leaving reviews, here's a little something that you can do. Search one of your new keywords that we just helped you discover and see what kind of podcasts are out there. Maybe listen to a few, but if you decide to leave a review on one of those, sign the review with your name and the name of your show. It's like a little chunk of marketing in that niche on people that are listening to a show that's kind of comparable to yours. Or if somebody comes on your show, leave them a review. You go on their show, leave them a review, but always sign. I always put Adam, host of Podcasting Business School. And like every review that I have, it's just like, it's not like a main marketing strategy, but if you're going to leave a review, you might as well have a little ad, a little name shout out of your own show there.
I've got another question for you. And I'd be curious if anybody else that's done a rebrand, how you approach this as well. But somebody asked about a rebrand. How do you prepare folks for that? When is the best time to do this, etc.? Can you give us a little bit of a framework if we're thinking about rebranding?
Yeah. Any benchmark episode is a good opportunistic moment. Like if you're like approaching episode 100 or 300 or end of the year, new year transition, or it's your birthday, it's your podcast anniversary or something like that. But honestly, if you just realize, if I just hit you over the head with the frying pan of podcasting truth and you're like, oh, this is not, my name isn't working for me. It's the number one reason why people aren't finding me. I've been doing 12 downloads an episode for 4 years. Then the sooner the better. Let's talk about how I like to transition it. I like a 3-week strategy. So, the first 2 weeks are the final 2 episodes of the current branding. And then we go 1 episode on the new brand. So 2 weeks before I rebrand, I do a casual mention on the episode. Like, hey, great episode today. Just a heads up. We're actually going to be doing a big rebranding. Make sure you tune in next week. I'm going to tell you all about it. So that's the first week, a little brief heads up. Then the next episode is the final episode of the old brand where I break down the new brand, why I'm doing it, heads up on why it's a big deal for them. If you're pivoting your content a little bit, what you can expect. And then the next episode is the brand new everything. The art has switched. The name has switched. You could do another kind of kickoff style episode or just dive right into it. But I like to let them know with a mini heads up, a big heads up, because what we don't want to have happen is losing subscribers because they see something else on their phone. They're like, this isn't, what show is this? I didn't subscribe to this. They don't recognize it. That's a problem. You could potentially lose some subscribers. So I like a little 2-week stair step of alerting them, letting them know that this is happening, this is coming, and here's what you kind of expect from it. So that's a nice safe strategy that works pretty well.
Do you ever, with some of your clients that have worked with you, like keep at least the cover art concept, the image or the colors kind of intact for a while to help with that transition?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how different like if we're just adding a title extension to the current brand, then we'll just do a little shadow box across the bottom, add those words in there, highlight one, done. You don't even need, if you're just doing a title extension, you don't need to do a big announcement at all. No big deal. But if it's a totally different name, I would follow that process. And we're going to have to change the art, but maybe it's a similar look, similar feel, similar, obviously brand colors, fonts, all that stuff is, we still want to be consistent with that. But yeah, so it kind of depends on how big of a shift we're making as far as, content and things like that.
Cool. All right. We got a couple of questions on title extension. I know we kind of blew through that and just started using that vocabulary. Can you explain what that is, Adam?
Yes. So a title extension is, okay. So if you go to my show right now on Apple or Spotify, you'll see Podcasting Business School, I just switched it yesterday to, I think it's like online business coaching for podcasters or something like that. I don't know. And maybe, I don't even know if I it updated or not yet. Online business coaching for, there we go. I did remember it. Fancy. So, but I just changed that yesterday. I didn't tell anybody. I change it about once a quarter and nobody ever notices. They just know, they see the art, Podcasting Business School. Before I changed it yesterday, it was, I think it was, podcasting tips for service providers, coaches, and solopreneurs or something like that. It's just keyword. And I just try different things and I see what works. So here I'm repeating a little bit the word business, but I wanted to kind of really lean into online business and I'm just going to see what happens. And then we have the word podcasting, but also now podcasters. So now I can, depending, if you can get the exact word they're searching, you're more of a guarantee to pop up. So and I'll switch it around next quarter, but that's a title extension. As after the colon, we add some more keywords in there.
And inside your podcast host, where you add your podcast title, this is don't be confused. This is just your podcast title in your host.
Yeah.
What Adam's mentioning is the podcast extension is what's after the colon here. But in technicality, in your podcast host, that's all in the same field box
Yeah.
whenever
It's all
you're
in the
putting
title
in that.
line.
Yep, it's all
Yeah.
in the title line. I also noticed you have this too. The show will deliver podcasting tips. I think that's typically like the show, the host name or something, the Apple account owner, right? You change
Yeah.
the Apple account owner name.
Yeah. Yeah. To get more keywords in there,
Love
which
it.
helps.
Cool. All right, I think we got time for maybe one more question. Anybody else have a question? Feel free to hop off mute and ask.
Dive in there.
Hey, sorry, it's Tanya from Toronto. Um, when I started, I think us to be a lead gen and get clients and find things. It really was just a creative joy project. I do realize the potential of it, but I'm not like I literally just launched in May, so I'm not anywhere near all of my cohorts on this call. So I think, is there a way to de-businessify the process of, okay, look what people are looking for and all these other things, if people are not quite there yet? I'm not at the point of monetization. I'm not necessarily, I don't have an email list because I don't want one. So I think I'm just curious in terms of, are there two streams of podcasters, people who do want it to lead to business offline, and then folks who are maybe not necessarily just like a state above a hobby, but below a business, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you can really look at who and put in some work with who your ideal listener avatar is, like that's the most important thing. And how do they describe themselves, and start using those words. And you can start to experiment with that title extension. So you can kind of keep the name of your show and just, let's try a few different things. I think my listener is this. Let's call them out in a title extension. Let's see what happens. Let's see if the downloads go up a little bit. Or just episode topic titles. Kind of, it's like fishing lines out in the water. But we're kind of putting a line in different ponds, going, oh, is this the type of person that really enjoys my show, or is this the type of person that enjoys my show? And I always tell people it takes 52 episodes or 52 weeks of podcasting to really figure out how the heck to be a podcaster and who you're talking to and who you can impact. So you're just in that mix right now. So just be curious, be willing to pivot. A rebrand or a pivot, I'll put this out there. It's not a fail. It's not a failure. I mean, I would say 95+% of podcasters have to or should consider changing their name, because we're not professional marketers going into this. I had no idea what I was doing when I launched my first show, like zero. I had no idea what I was doing when I launched my second show. So like, it's a very common thing. So I don't want any podcasters feeling that it's a failure or beating themselves up and quitting because, oh, my name is not what it should have been. Like, this is super, super common. So I kind of want to just put that out there. But yeah, I think taking some time and figuring out who your ideal audience is that's showing up, and is that the person that you want to impact? Is there some correlation there? And if there is, then we can start having conversation with these people and be like, what pain points do you have? What topics do you really want me to focus on? And that's where your business aspect of this could evolve, where you're like, oh, Tanya, we really want your help with email marketing strategies, because I'm really struggling with this. And maybe try some content, maybe do some coaching episodes like I do on that or something. And then you're like, wow, there's a need for this. I would love creating an offer around this. And I think my audience would love more content about this. So it'll evolve from a hobby into a business. But just be willing to try different things, experiment, pivot, and kind of micro pivot fearlessly. Because the good news is, when you start out, we are getting 12 downloads an episode. So it's not like a raging crowd of people like, you changed the name, and they're not showing up with pitchforks all pissed at you. It's like 12 people, and like 3 of them are probably like your iPad and your iPhone and your computer that you subscribe yourself. Okay, I'll end on a podcast joke. Tom will like this. So podcaster joke. You might be a podcaster if you've ever gone to Best Buy and subscribed every display device to your podcast. You might be a podcaster. There you go. That's my joke of the day.
And you've done it.
Growth strategy. Hashtag growth hack. Go to Best Buy. as we all rush to Best Buy.
All right, Adam. I really appreciate the insight on today's call. I know you got to hop and you got a hard stop here, so I'm going to let you jump. I did drop Adam's Instagram link. He hangs out on Instagram and Threads, so if you're into that, go give him a follow, shoot him a DM. He doesn't use AI to respond to your DMs. That will truly be Adam that replies. So if you want to continue the conversation, once again, go follow him and reach out to him through Instagram. And then I think I'll drop it again. I'll drop your show as well. But as a podcast coach and manager, Adam's show is on my routine listen list. I really enjoy the content, and I think you guys will as well. So go check out Adam's show.
Thanks, Justin.
Adam.
I appreciate you. Pod pals, appreciate you for hanging out today, allowing me to talk and dispense a little bit of knowledge. And you're in a great place here. So keep showing up to stuff like this, and good things will happen with your podcast. So appreciate you all. We'll see you all later.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, crew. If anybody else wants to stick around for a couple of minutes, I'm free for the next 20-ish minutes. So feel free, hang around, ask questions, meet some other podcasters. But I know we're running at the top of the hour right now too. So I just appreciate you guys spending an hour. We'll have another online connect in February. I'll reach out to you guys with additional details. I should have your email. So you'll see that via email from me, but feel free, always reach out to me. I'm Justin at simplepodstudios.com. If you guys need any support or help, I'm here for you.